Hi everyone, this is my very first crochet sweater video. I hope you like it. Let's get started. For this project, I'm going to be using a batik kind of yarn, and I'm going to be using this Alize yarn. It's 100% acrylic. I like it because it's very soft and it's very colorful. This is 210 meters, which comes to about 230 yards, and the one piece is about 100 grams. And the yarn width is very narrow, so I'm going to be using a 0.5 millimeter hook, but you can also use anything from 2 to 4 millimeters. But of course, that depends on whether you get a yarn that's this kind. If you get something that's wider, you're going to need a wider hook. In total, I'm going to be using around 5 of these pieces, but you might need more because that depends on how big you want your sweater to be and your individual measurements. If you're around my size and you're making a sweater that's close to what I did, you're going to need 5 of these. So we're going to start by making the arms. We start with some ribbing here because I want the sweater to be tighter towards the wrist, and then this will balloon as we head towards the shoulder. So I'm going to show you how you get this effect down here and how we transition from this ribbing to the rest of the arm. Let's get started. Let's start making the chain. So we're going to start by making a slip knot. So that's what we do. There we go, we have a slip knot. So I'm going to leave this end in because I can always work it in, and it also gives me control over the yarn because this is how I'll hold my yarn. I'll have the end and then I'll have what I'm working with. So you want to leave a bit of room. You don't want the chain to be too snug or too tight, and you also don't want it to be too loose. So you're going to grab the yarn and work it through that. That gives you the first chain. Now go in again, work it. There we have the second chain. Go through again. That gives us chain 3. Hold the yarn. There we go. Chain number 4. Then there we go. Chain number 5. There we go. Chain number 6. Chain number 7. Chain number 8. Chain number 9. Chain number 10. Chain number 11. Chain number 12. Chain number 13. And finally chain 14. If that was a bit fast, you can always slow down the video to follow what just happened. So you'll see that this is close to these. They're almost the same in length, but this seems a bit longer, but they'll soon seem similar once we've gone through the next part. So what you want to do at this point, you take this yarn and you yarn over, and you skip the first parts of the chain and you move to the second one. So this is number 1, go into number 2. So go into number 2, and then now this is where it gets interesting. You yarn over, then you pull out, and then just pull out again without yarning over. See, let's do that again so that we can see how that's working. So back to the start. You're going to yarn over, skip the first one and move into the second one. Once you've done that, you're going to yarn over and come out. Then you're going to pull out to the remaining 2 chains so that you'll see these 2 chains. That's where you came out of. Okay, let's do that again. Yarn over. So now we skip the chain that we worked on and we come to this one. So you go in through that, and then there you go, out, and then through those 2 chains. There you go. Then again you yarn over, skip the one that you've worked on, go into the next one. There we go. I'm trying to get a hold of that to maintain a clear field. There we go. You've yarned over, then you pull that through the remaining two. So do that until we get to this part, and then I'll show you what you do when you get there. When you get to the very end, you're going to yarn over. The last one can be a bit tricky, so you'll need to be a bit more forceful with that because you need to get it for everything to come together. So you're going to need to apply some force. So where is it? Just work through that last one. There we go. Yarn over. Make sure you go in and then use that to come out through the last hoops. Then you turn your work, and then now we're going to chain one. So by chaining one, I mean going to take your yarn over, and then do that. That's what you call chain one. Okay, so you're going to yarn over again. Last time we skipped the first chain. We're not going to do that again, so we're going to go right into that first chain, and we're going to continue the same technique. So going through those first two loops, you yarn over, you move into the next chain, and we're working through the back rows this time around. We're just working through the back rows. So we worked into the first chain, then the back row of the second one. There you go in, come out through those two knots. There we go. Yarn over into the back row. There we go. Then yarn over, and then through those last two. So we're going to continue doing that. When you get to the end, you're going to turn your work, chain one, and continue with the same technique. So in the end, you should have something that looks like this. So this is going to be the rows. So what you're going to do, you're going to measure the number of rows based on your measurements. So in my case, I chose something that will fit snugly around my wrist, but you can also go for something a bit wider. You just need to check what is going to fit the measurements of the person who's going to be wearing that sweater, whether that's you or it's someone else. Once you've gotten to that point, then you're going to come back here and we're going to work on the rest of the sweater. So for now, just focus on making this ribbing. Maintain the same distance so that the final product can look like it was knit by a machine. Yes, so just take your time. It may take a while. This technique is a bit time consuming, but the results are obviously very worth it. So just keep at it and let's meet when you're done. So I've gotten to the desired width for mine, which is after about 28 rows, which is similar to what I did for the other cuff. So at this point, once you have what you prefer, we'll work on the rest of it. So let's start doing that. So at this point, you're going to chain one, just like that. And then you're going to yarn over, and then we're going to work into each section. So we're going to work into that part, this part, this part. We're going to work into each section. So let me show you how that works. So this is the first part. I'm going to go in. We're using the same technique, and then pull through those last two. Some will be very tight, so you'll need to use a bit of force, but that's only for this row. So immediately after I've worked on the first one, I'm going to look for an opening here. So I'm going to do that. Then again yarn over. Then we've worked on this part, so I'm going to find an opening here. Yeah. Same technique, in, then pull through. Then once again I've worked on this one, so the next one would be this one. So once again pull through, and then I've worked on this one, so I'm going to find an opening here. Yes, there we go. So we're going to do that continuously until the end. So just do that until we get to this part, and then I'll show you what to do for the rest of it. As you get to the end, you'll notice that the top part is much wider than the bottom part. So if that's happening to yours, that's okay. You're on the right track. It will widen as we continue. So now that we're at the end, you're going to continue the same technique. You're going to yarn over and then find the last part of that chain. Just find it. And then you insert your hook in there. Continue with the process. There we go. And then there we are. So we're done with that part. So you're going to turn your work and chain one. And then now you're going to work into the back row of that whole chain. So you're going to yarn over and then find the first one, just as we did when we were working on the ribbing. So find the first back row, go in there, yarn over, come out, and then there we go. So continue doing that. So we're going to move into the second one. There we are. So you're going to keep doing that for 4 rows. Let me demonstrate. You're going to work on row 1, 2, 3, and 4 using that same strategy. But when we get to the 5th row, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll see that this is much wider. And that's why we'll do the additions. It's the only part where we'll do the additions, such that when you lay your cardigan, you'll notice that it's a bit thin here, it's a bit narrow, and it remains a bit narrow, but it's widening a bit. But when you get here, it flares out, and then it continues just very flat. So it's like a bit of a balloon design, but you're only going to flare out once we get to the 5th row. So you just work on row 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then when you get to the 5th row, you just come back, and then I'll show you how to do that, and then the rest of it will be easy. It's just what you've been doing the whole time. So let's meet here. So now let's work on the next section. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're counting these parts. And then on this other side, you'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to work on part 5. So you're going to come here and you're going to chain 1. And then you're going to yarn over. So we're going to be adding. So you'll go into that first section. There we go. We're still using the same technique. And usually you'll go into the second one after that, but you're going to yarn over and go straight again into that same back row. So you've worked on row number 1 twice, chain number 1, sorry. You've worked on chain number 1 twice. Then you're going to yarn over, and now you move into the second one using the same technique. And then the third one. And then the fourth one. And then now when you come to number 5, we're going to change it. So we are going to do the same thing we did on the first chain. So we're going to go in the first time. And then we're going to go in again in the same section. So we are slowly adding to the length, to the width of this row, but we want to make it look uniform. So we are doing it gradually. So again, you work from number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Every time you get to a multiple of 5, so that's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, up to the end, you're going to be adding one section. So now I'm in number 6. I'm going to work on it as usual, 7, 8, 9, and then when I get to 10, I'm going to do a double. So do the same thing until you get to the end. And when you get here, you're just going to work on it the same way you're working on it on these other rows. So let's do that. So this is what your work will look like. You'll see this is the 5th row that I worked on. You see 1 2 3 4 5. This is where I did the additions. It looks uniform, and then after that you'll just work on it the same way you were working on this previous rows. And then this is what you'll get a flared out cardigan where the shoulder, the arms will look like this. So you'll just continue doing that until you get to a length that's comfortable for you. Think about what will work for you or the person who's going to wear these. So you're only making the additions here. Then after that, you'll just continue with the same technique up without any additions. Just the same way you did the first 4 is the same way you'll do the others. You're only doing the additions here. So let's meet at this end, and then we'll work on the front and back panels. At the end, you will have 2 such pieces because you'll use the same technique on both arms. So you'll see that I've done these and I've also done these. It's beginning to come together. It's as long as my arms, which you can also measure using some of your clothes. So now once you have these 2, we'll move on to the front and back panels. The front and back panels will have the same technique. So it's a bit of a wide sweater, as you can see. So, and also the height will depend on you. I'm choosing something that's a bit of a crop, but then it's still a bit longer than my usual designs. So for these, we're going to be working with a chain of 75 because I want my sweater to be wide. Of course, you can work with something that's more narrow or something that's wider depending on your measurements. So in my case, we're going to work with a chain of 75. So we're going to start here. I've already done my front panel, but my front and back will be the same thing. So let me show you the design that you'll use for both parts. I'm going to work with a chain of 75. So we'll do the same thing we did when we were starting the arms. So you'll start by making your slip knot. And it's pretty much the same design that we used last time, only that this time we don't have ribbing for the back and the front panels. So this is just a straight chain of 75. So let's do that. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm just going to continue with this technique until we get to 75. So let me meet you there. So once you have your chain of 75, you'll work on it the same way we did. So that requires you to yarn over and then work into that first loop, then yarn over, come out, then pull through that. So it's the same technique that we've been using. So there's nothing that's going to be different this time around. So go in, yarn over, come out, then pull through those first 2. Then keep doing that until you're done with the first row. Turn your work and then continue working using the same design. This is what you're going for. You just want something that's uniform. So you just want to work very slowly and very deliberately so that the work can look neat. So you'll just do that until you get to a height that's comfortable for you. In my case, that was at this height. Yes, so you just do that, and then I'll meet you when you get here, and then we can work on the neck and attaching the other pieces. So that's it. Once you have all your panels, it's time to join them. We're going to be using a slip stitch. So this is what it looks like. And we're also going to use it to join the arms and the rest of the front and back panel. So this is what it looks like. It's very uniform. So let me show you how we do it. And I'm going to show you how we do it at this point. So you're going to find the end there. And then you're going to look for the first front loop and the first one on this side, and then you're going to work with your yarn inside. So this is what you do. You insert your hook into that first front loop, and then again into the first one, the exact opposite side. There we go. And then you get the yarn, pull up just like we were doing before, and then you pull it through those two. Let's do that again. The first loop and the first loop, I get the yarn and I pull it through those two. There we go. And then you go into the second one, and then you look for the exact second one, and then you pull up the yarn through that. But this time when you come up, you're also going to pull it through the first knot you had, and then you go into the third one and the third one. You will just follow the same pattern. So the third one here, and then you pull it up. So you see the pattern is forming, the cardigan is coming together. So you'll continue doing that. That's the same technique that you'll use throughout to join the pieces to each other. So just continue doing that. So technically, okay, see, that's what it looks like. You're going to use that same pattern to join the shoulders together. You see there's a seam here. You're going to use that to join the arms to the front and back panels. You're going to use that to join the panels together. But then when it comes to the neck area, so what you want to do is measure. You see I've already done this part. I plan my neck size to be this wide, but then that also depends on your neck size. So make sure you've measured your neck against the cardigan, and then just leave enough room for that. So you'll join everything together. Like here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to join this part all the way up to here, because this is where my neck size begins. This is enough for me. So you just make sure you have enough for yourself, and then when you're done doing everything, the front and back panels, the shoulders and the arms to the front and back panels, and this part, you'll meet me here, and then we'll work on the neck. So just use the normal slip stitch to join the cardigan. You can also use a blanket stitch, but this looks way better with this design. So try and do this. See you at the neck. Once you've attached everything, we'll only work on the neck now. So you can see the seams, they're done, and then I've left this space for the neck. Everything else is attached, the shoulders are attached. So let's work on the neck. Let me show you how you do that. So you'll insert the end of the yarn inside, and then you'll have this piece that you're going to be working with. You want to keep it visible. So what you're going to do, we're still going to be working through the back loop. So choose where you're going to start. In my case, I'll start here. So you're going to pull that's once, and then you're going to chain one. So just as we did before, there we go, chain one. So just like that, we are done. We are ready to now start working on the next one. So you're going to use the same techniques that we were using before, where you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to go into that back loop, and then you're going to yarn over, come out, and then pull through all those loops. Yeah, there we go. So again, yarn over, look for the next back loop. Here it is. So in we go, and then pull through all those loops. So you're going to keep going, and in the end you're going to have a longer neckline if that's what you want. So go for as many rows as you want. In my case, I'm thinking I'm going to go for about 5 rows, but we'll see once I'm done. And then once you're done, your sweater will be ready. So let me see you when I'm done with this part. So when you get to this part where you're connecting this side to the other, you're going to work on the back row, and then make sure you get this seam where these two attach, and then continue working on the back row. And then when you get to the final part where you started, you'll start by chaining one. So if you think you'll forget where you started, you can start by using a stitch marker here in the row where you started in that chain. So that's okay. Let's continue. This is the final result. I hope you're able to make something like this. Bye.